Show me the money. Show me the money.
Hi everybody, welcome back to BetterThanTalkThatOnline.com and our second episode of Show Me the Money Project. Now last time I said go to Gail Vaz-Oxlade's website and download her worksheet for budgeting, because that's what we're here to do after all, is learn how to budget our money. So if you didn't follow us along last week, this week you can still catch up. Go to the website, download the worksheet, and we will tell you now how you can actually fill it in and work out your budget. So, as I said, this is your blank budget. You can see, Gail calls it how your budget works. Build a budget that works. Starts out with your income in the first column. Your next column here is going to be your fixed expenses, so your rent, your mortgage, your electricity bill, things you can't change. Following that is going to be your variable expenses. This is things like the gas you put in your car, your medical bills, your groceries, what you spend on your pets, things like that. That's everything that goes in this column here. You'll see down here there's a thing called taxes and a thing called debt repayment. Those numbers you're going to have to figure out what you can afford to pay. If you owe back taxes, that's where you put it in. If you don't owe them, don't worry about it. But figure out how much of your debt you can afford to comfortably repay every month. Finally, you get to the last column here, the emergency fund and savings. These are no longer optional. You need to have this kind of money laying around in case you lose your job, in case you break your arm, in case. Finally, you get to your total. Now here's where it gets a little confusing. Your total should be 0. If you have a negative number, you've spent too much money. If you have a positive money, you haven't spent all your money. Your total should be 0. Let's take a look at my budget and see how my numbers work in the real world. So as you can see, this is actually my budget. There's real numbers in here. There's a real total. Look, it comes to 0. Let's take a minute and go through step by step where all these numbers came from. So as you can see, this is my income over here. This is what I make net. That's what I make gross. Just for reference, I look at the gross number if you're ever confused. It's really gross that you don't get to keep that amount when you get your paycheck. You only get this amount. But that's where it goes. These are your fixed expenses. So I've used this mortgage property tax one as my rent. I've used the electricity bill that we pay every month, the gas bill. We don't have a maintenance fee on where we live. We do have a cable bill. Our cable bill includes a lot of things, including our phone and our internet. I've included bank fees. Bank fees are the killer of all people. People forget all the time to include bank fees in your actual budgeting. Mine is particularly high because I carry a few loans. My cell phone is included in here. As my internet's included in my cable, I didn't include that. And finally, my house insurance. This is something I pay every month, therefore it's a fixed expense. My car payment is fixed expense. And finally, the insurance and licensing on that car is also a fixed expense. All goes in here on this side. You can see that some of these numbers over here are changing if you're following along. Don't worry about this side of the worksheet just yet. We'll get to it. Okay, so we've walked you through the fixed expenses. Now we're going to go through the variable expenses. Now in my working budget, it includes things like gas and oil for my car. I've included a budget for repairs for my car. I don't take public transportation. I've included an amount for groceries and personal care. These are the kinds of things that go in your variable expenses because they can go up or down depending on what's going on in your life at any given time. I included an amount for vacation. I included an amount for clubs and union, sports, hobbies. All of these need to be included. I didn't because I don't have any that I pay for, but I do contribute to a charity every month, and don't forget to include that kind of thing in your budget. Finally, I don't owe any taxes, so I didn't include that number, but I did add up what I thought I could afford to repay in debt repayment. That number is always in red. And finally, I made sure that there was a savings amount. You can see it's an odd number. It's $78.99. That was so my bottom number would be zero. Otherwise, I had something like negative $1.01. So that's why my savings is kind of a funny number. Now, all of these colors, you'll notice, kind of coordinate over here. So we're going to talk for a second about this side of this chart. So as you can see, all of these colors match the colors on the other side of your sheet. These colors represent what you're actually spending and what you're actually going to spend. So these numbers over here, for instance, is housing. The first part of this little end piece tells you what you're spending on housing. The second number tells you the percentage you should be spending on housing. So you can see I'm doing okay in this regard. If you take a look at debt, however, I should only be spending 15% of what I make on debt, but because I'm digging myself out, I'm actually spending 29.85% on my debt repayment, just to keep you in check of where everything is. Finally, you'll see that on this part is actually the jar money. Yes, those magic jars, we're going to get to those. This is the amount of money you're going to get out of the bank every week, or every month, as you may choose, that you'll spend in cash. So you have all your categories, your transportation, food, entertainment, clothing and gifts, everything else, and your total jar money. So you can see I go to the bank every week and I take out this much money. And I divide it to all of these jars, which we're now going to show you how to use. Okay, here they are, as promised, our jars. We have the food and personal care jar. This is where the bulk of your money is going to go, so it's going to have the most amount of money and receipts in it. Next we have the transportation jar. This is what you spend getting to and from wherever you have to go all week. Then we have the entertainment jar. It's looking pretty lean. I guess we're not partying a whole lot this week. We have the other jar. This jar is usually used for pets, for anything that's not personally to you. And finally, we have the everything else jar. Everything else is actually everything else in this case. So it's clothing and gifts. It's if you need to save a few dollars for something at the end of the month, that's where this money goes. The food jar. This is actually for your groceries as well as your personal care. So make sure that you put enough money in here to cover both what you eat and what you wash yourself with. That said, there are a few things you can do to actually stretch the dollars that go in this jar a lot. Some of them include meal planning. Some of them include putting together a stockpile of your shampoos and soaps and such. But I'm not much for stockpiling, so I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about meal planning and how it can help you save some money. Okay, now for this example, we're going to use a meal planner from CanadianLiving.com. You can go to their website and you need to set yourself up on their meal plan recipes section, and then you can log in at any time and alter your meal plans. For this example, I've set it up for one day just to give you an idea of how to do this. So for this Sunday, for breakfast, we're having berry breakfast puff, we're having a Cobb-style chicken sandwich for lunch, and we're having garlic shrimp and spinach linguine for dinner. I entered these all happen to be recipes off of CanadianLiving.com, and I've added in 2 snacks by hand. You would do the same for the next day and the same for the next day. You generally do this on a Sunday so that you can do this for an entire week. What follows that with this particular meal planner is it will break down your grocery list for you by the day. So you can see on Sunday, it looks like a pretty lengthy list of items that you need to have just to be, fed for the day. However, odds are you have more than 3 eggs in your fridge already. You probably have flour in your house already. You may already have sugar, milk, vanilla. Things like staples are already in your home. So when you're looking to build your grocery list, you're looking for things you don't usually have. Perhaps it's berries. In this case, maybe it's bacon you don't have, or maybe you don't have mayonnaise, or maybe you don't have Dijon mustard in particular. That's how you build your grocery list, is by going through your items in your home and figuring out what you have and you don't have. That's how you build your meal plans. So now that you've figured out how to meal plan, there's a few other extra tips I've figured out along the way that might be a really good idea for you. First of all, go through all your cupboards. Find out what's in your shelves, find out what's in your freezer and your fridge. You'll probably find out that there's some things in there that A, need to be thrown out, and B, need to be used sooner than later. Secondly, write an inventory of that list on the front of your cupboard and the front of your fridge. That way you'll know exactly what's in there and exactly how much of it you have left. Finally, get the whole family involved in your meal planning. Don't try to do it yourself. What you like may not be what your husband likes, may not be what your boyfriend likes, may not be what your kids like. Get everybody involved, get them around the table, figure out what everybody wants to eat, and then figure out how to plan it. That's how you want to go about doing your meal planning. It'll save you tons of time and even money. So hopefully you learned how to do some meal planning and some inventory in your kitchen. You've learned how to use the jars and in general learned how to use your budget. If you have any questions or concerns, by all means get a hold of us. You can do so through betterthanchocolateonline.com. Next time, we've got something pretty tasty brewing up. You're going to want to watch and find out what it is. Till next time!